Hi, welcome back, third grade readers. Welcome to our reading workshop. Today we are going to be focusing on our 7th lesson. Last time that we met, we were talking about how we had to really focus in on the descriptive detail that the author was using so that we could really get a better understanding of our informational text. Today we're going to look at another structure that we'll find in our informational nonfiction text, and that is finding the sequential structure of what is being written. And we know that sequential means in order. So sometimes in our informational reading, we'll see the author use first, happens, next, and finally. So you might see those key words. Or sometimes it'll be written out first, second, third. So that's sequential order. So we are going to focus on paying attention today to the way that our text is written and see if we can find somewhere in our informational text where something is written out in a sequential order, where it tells you what happens first, next, finally, and so on. And that way, when you do focus in on that, that's going to allow you to be able to share this new knowledge that you have with others a little more easily, because you can take them through the exact steps that you recalled. So finding that sequential order. So we're going to take a look at our mentor text, Penguins. And I'm going to be sharing a new section in the book with you. And it's going to be the section on baby penguins. And I'm going to read this over together, and then we're going to find the parts and see if on this page there is sequential order, where it takes you from what first happens, what next happens, and finally. Sometimes there might be 2 steps, 3 steps. I mean, there could be up to 6, 7. It just depends on what they're talking about, okay? So, let me show you this. So our focus is our nonfiction reading. We're going to recognize the sequential structure in our text. So we're going to find that. Once we find that, just like we did yesterday where we organized what we found in a web or in the box and bullets, well, today we're going to organize these details using some maybe keywords, first, then, next, last, or we could also be drawing out a timeline, because we know timelines go from the beginning to the end. We might do this structure, which is a diagram, where it has a circle going to the next circle to the next. I know that 3 are here, but if you have enough things going in sequential order, you might need more. Or we could also do a cycle. This is another graphic organizer where it's showing kind of like a round circle of the events happening in order. Okay, so we're going to read, find our sequential events, and then put them into some of our different graphic organizers. Now, readers, remember that you might be reading a page that doesn't come in sequential order. And when I looked through this penguin book, not every page had that. So you may not find it exactly in the certain spot that you've been reading today or yesterday, but eventually you might find something that is listed in sequential order. Okay, so excuse me, you listen in, and then we're going to go from there. So, baby penguins. Okay. Baby penguins are called chicks or hatchlings. Most female penguins have 1 or 2 chicks each year. Penguins are good parents. Both mother and father look after their eggs and chicks. Parents care for their babies until they're able to hunt for themselves. They also protect the chicks from enemies and harsh weather. Now I'm going to stop there for a minute. What I have read are these 2 top parts. Did we hear anything about sequential order? Did it tell you what the mother and father first do, next, and so forth? No, not yet. But I'm going to take a look. And remember, one of our text features, sometimes they'll have in nonfiction a picture with some text, a picture and text. We're now going to read over these different text box areas, and let's see if maybe this is written in sequential order, okay? So I'm going to zoom in so you can see these pictures. All right, so now let's listen closely. Let's see. First, the parents take turns brooding their egg. They guard the egg and keep it warm. Several weeks later, the chick hatches. Next, the chick breaks a small hole with its egg tooth, a small, sharp bump on the tip of its beak. The egg tooth will fall off after a few days. Then, the chick cracks the egg around the middle and pushes the halves apart with its feet. It takes up to 2 days to get out of the egg. Finally, the chick pecks at the bottom of its parent's beak to say, "Feed me." The parent then brings up food or regurgitates food for the baby chick. Now, did you hear any sequential order? Did they take you from what happens first and all the way through? I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. First, we heard how the parents take turns once there's an egg, and they rest on the egg to keep it warm. Then we heard that when it's time for the baby chick to start cracking, they use something called an egg tooth, and they start cracking to get the egg open. Then, once the baby gets enough of the egg tooth cracked open of the egg, then they start working their way out of that whole egg, out of the shell, and it takes up to 2 whole days. And then finally, once the little baby is out, it uses its little beak and it pecks the mom or dad to say, "Feed me, feed me." And then the parents feed the baby. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to, remember, write it out as a timeline, a flow diagram, and a cycle. Now, when you do this, you don't have to do all 3 for the one section that you're finding. Just like yesterday, you only had to choose to do a web or the box and bullets for a certain area. I am today going to show you an example using this information and doing all 3, okay? So again, to save some time, I created all 3 charts ahead of time, but I'd like to share with you how I displayed them. Now, we took the time just now to talk it through with the first, the next. So I think you have a clear understanding of what the order was, the sequential order. So let's take a look. If first we make a timeline, okay, and that's right here. I took the main key ideas from what we read and I broke them down. Now I had 4 key points. It kind of matched up with the 4 sections that we had here. So I wrote timeline just so we know. And then here's what I put. For the first part, it said I put parents take turns sitting on their egg. Then, and I put my keyword up here, then chick uses egg tooth to break the egg. Next, in 2 days, the chick cracks the egg to get out. Last, chick pecks the parent's beak to say, "Feed me." So I was able to take the information from our informational text and I was able to create a timeline from what happens first all the way to the end. I put just the key points. You can see I didn't do full huge sentences. I just put key ideas and I wrote them out across the timeline. Okay? We know that the other form of a graphic organizer is what? Remember? Flow diagram. And that's this one. The flow diagram. That's where you make your circles, and then you would write your info in the circle, draw your arrow over, write your info, draw it over, and it's showing the flow, okay? Just like a timeline, just a different structure. Here's one tip though. Mrs. Talon, what I did is I drew the circle first, and then I had to squeeze my writing in. I tend to write a little larger, so I learned from my mistake. I need to do my writing, then circle it in. So you might have to see how that works for you. So I use the same info, it's just a little shortened. In my first circle, I put parents warm egg. Second, this time I used numbers, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, to show the sequential order. So then the second one, chick breaks egg. 3rd, 2 days to escape the egg. And the 4th one, chick is hungry and pecks the parents. So you'll notice that I did a little bit of different writing just to fit the different type of chart. Lastly, the type of chart that you could create is called a cycle. Kind of reminds me of the water cycle, kind of for science, where you have the circle going around. So again, I started with my circle. I wrote the first thing that happened, second, third, and then fourth. Okay? So what your job today will be is while you're reading, see if in your informational text you can find a spot where the author is listing the sequential structure of all of your informational text. Okay, that's what your job is to be. And once you find that area, then pull out a notebook or a piece of paper or something that you can do a little bit of writing on. And I want you to see if you can write out that information using a timeline, the cycle flow diagram, or our circle chart. Okay, so I want you to try some of those. Your student chart will be posted, like always, on our learning site where you can look at this. This is your guide, exactly what Mrs. Talon just showed you. You can use this as your step-by-step guide to help you when it comes to finding those important sequential items. Okay? Now, when you read today, this is going to help you gather a better understanding of what your author is trying to share with you in your informational text. So I think that you're going to find that this is kind of a fun thing to do. So I hope it goes well. Be sure to take about 20 to 30 minutes today to dive into a nonfiction book. Maybe it's the same book that you've been reading. Maybe you're finding a new one, but stay focused on that informational text and try to do some of these. And if you get a chance to create one of these charts, maybe you can snap a picture and send it to your teacher. We would love to see all the hard work that you're doing. All right, third graders, happy reading. We're so proud of you. Keep up the great work. We'll see you again tomorrow for our next reading lesson. Take care.